Okay, don't mind the mess in the kitchen, but I'm just going to quickly show you a little bit of what is involved in winding the warp or the silk threads that I'm going to use to weave. Like I said, don't mind the mess in the kitchen. And here is my warping mill, and I've got it set up so that there's a pink thread here that is 14 yards long, and it's wound around the warping mill. I've got 4 balls of this silk that I'm going to be weaving with. Let's see if I can get that into focus so you can see how fine it is. And I've got it in order. I've borrowed some flower pots from my orchids that are sitting over there on the counter, eagerly awaiting to get back in their pots. And what I'm going to do is be winding, to make this process go a little faster, I'm going to wind 4 threads at one time, because I've got 380 threads to wind. And so I've knotted them together up top, and the 4 strands are eagerly awaiting to be wound. Under and over these pegs, and then I twist this around. I have to watch for the threads being kept even and catching on my pegs. I'll move my warping mill in a bit. And I want to be sure that I stay with this line of pink thread, guide thread, all the way around. And so we're currently winding 4 threads to be 14 yards long, and I will get 5 scarves, hopefully, out of this length. So that's 4 threads at 14 yards, so now we just have 376 more to go. And it's just a matter of working down to the bottom and then working back up, keeping it all evenly tensioned. And I have to watch because I just got caught up on my pegs there again. So you have to know how long your project is going to be and calculate out for some loom wastage in order to determine how long your warp should be. Whoopsie. Yeah, so see how fun this is? Gotta go back sometimes and have to be careful about tensioning and counting. So that's the other thing. I have a cross in my warp here, and that will help me keep my threads even. And I use a scrap piece of yarn to help me count. So I should have actually put that in for the first one. It's just going to help me count by 10s or 20s, whatever you want to do. Just hang it loosely there. Oh, it fell. So if I want to leave my tensioning, I have to wrap it around here. There, that'll be easier with 2 hands to do this. Just leave it looped there, and then I cross it around, and so that's 1, 2 of 4 done. So then I just have to go around and around and around and continue to count and evenly tension, and that is how I wind a warp. Now this is going to take me a long time, so I'm going to spare you having to watch how long it takes. I'll write in my Facebook post how long this actually took for me to wind 380 threads, 14 yards long. So I have wound 10 passes of 4 threads each, and I'm going to now move my counting thread. I'm going to pull up the one that's coming from the bottom and flip it up to the top, and pull the one that's at the top and flip it down to the bottom. It just stays loose, just kind of hangs there. And so now it's like one bundle of 10 times up and down to the bottom of 14 yards. And so that's how I use that loose thread as a counting thread. So I have finished winding all of my threads and alternating with one green thread and one blue thread, and it's kind of painterly how it's come out, a really nice sea green almost, even though it's green and blue individual threads. There's my pink guide thread. You can see it's kind of loosened off a bit, and that's likely because of all the tension as the threads are wound around. So there's 4, how many yards was it? I have to go back and check. Anyway, now what I have to do is tie off around the loops, not including my guard wire, and you can see where a cross is formed, where the threads, half the threads go down and half the threads go down the opposite way. And I want to keep these separated when I take this off this warping mill, because I want to put lease sticks in there to help me put it on the loom in an orderly fashion. But now what I have to do in order to not have these threads go all over the place is kind of squeeze it together and tie what's called a choke on it, and that will kind of hold the threads in place at certain points in the warp. And so I'm going to do that, and then I will resume the video. So I've tied all of my chokes, so one on this side, and then I twirl it around on the other side. So I got 14 chokes in there tied off so that I can maintain my cross at the top as well as at the bottom of the warp. And now I'm going to release it from the warping mill. Okay, so now I'm going to take all the threads off of the warping mill. Unscrewing a wing nut here to release part of the frame. Try to get it off. And there, that swings out, and that will help to release the tension so that I can pull it off and start winding it into a chain. So I'm going to chain it off. Just want to keep it so that there's a bit of a loop there. Oops, it's kind of caught in there, of course. Always got to be one thread that pulls. And then I'm going to open up this loop a bit, and I'm going to just start chaining it off. And this will help me as I put it on the loom. Not get into things on the counter because I love that piece of the frame sticking way out. So by chaining, it's going to make it very manageable to have all these threads. Oops. And avoid tangling. You can see how they want to cling to everything. They're clinging to the guide wire. And here we go. Very manual process. I didn't lose count and got the width that I need. Otherwise, I'll be back here finding more, so I'm gonna keep my guide thread in place in case I have to wind more or some threads break. It'll save me from measuring out the length of the warp again. Do it this time. Oh, I got my guide thread caught in my thread here. Oh, just this off. That's how things go. They don't always work out perfect. Let's put that back on. It doesn't release. Oop, oop, oop. And it released. I'll fix that in a minute. And so that is the warp for 5 scarves, I hope.